recent road trip covering thousands of kilometers through the heartland of the Australian continent, through iconic areas such as Uluru Ayers Rock, Kakadu and all towns in between, has emphasized that the indigenous people of this vast and welcoming land often lack any real sense of hope. This is so strongly linked to lack of employment. The general population of this egalitarian nation very much support the equality and uniqueness of our first people. They very much desire these people to have all the expected opportunities of every other Australian. Successive federal and state governments for decades have poured billions of dollars into various schemes to assist these people become more equal to all other non-indigenous people. Unfortunately, these schemes most often ignore the wishes of the indigenous people, or were not fully informed as to the needs of these peoples, and were more paternal than realistic. Often it could be claimed that the infamous White Australia policy was once again being implemented here, whether explicitly or implicitly. What was observed in the towns along the main route from Adelaide, South Australia, to Darwin in the Northern Territory, and west to Kununurra in Western Australia, was a financially poor indigenous people with very limited employment opportunities, a people who were wandering around looking for something to do. Most of these towns are very much isolated from the larger towns and cities of this huge, vast dry land. It is common knowledge within Australia that the Australian Aborigines lack opportunities for equality with the rest of the nation, in particular in the critical areas of health, education, employment and even the law, as seen through the incarceration rate. Key Aboriginal elders and those other non-Indigenous Australians who either live with or who provide employment for must be listened to seriously in any policy formulation and implementation. Farmer policies need to be evaluated with proper key Aboriginal input. No longer can Australia flail about searching for successful strategies, policies and laws. The obvious observation within the towns visited on this trip was one of poverty and a lack of employment opportunities. Towns just didn't have the employment opportunities or apparent infrastructure to support the number of indigenous people and others in each of these places. Without a proper job and income, so many other difficulties arise. Poverty was rampant, housing was poor health resulting from poverty, and a lack of hope, both physical and mental, may have been in need of assistance, but wasn't overtly obvious from the outside. Education success, from most reports, is challenged, often as a result of poor attendance or lack of hope in any future opportunities, leading to poor attendance or limited years of schooling or any lead into tertiary study. Employment options seemed very limited for Aborigines, especially in towns and areas with shared Aboriginal ownership or leaseship, such as Uluru Ayers Rock. The great majority of people employed in the township resort and businesses adjacent to the actual iconic Uluru Rock, along with the cultural center precinct at the actual rock, were non-Aboriginal. This seems quite extraordinary. There was also a view expressed that many Aborigines living near mines were employed there, and after some time decided to leave their positions, live off their earnings, and basically remained unemployed, and mainly socializing within their local communities, often within their nearest town. However, this was not a common situation on the journey undertaken. Most places visited on the Stuart Highway and others did not have the option of mine work. There is currently a movement in its infancy within Australia challenging lawmakers and the general population to think and act beyond the square and failed historical policies. Australia must offer its Indigenous Aborigines a truly shared role in deciding how to support their needs, to carefully listen to the elders of these communities so as to formulate strong, valid and incisive policies which will bring about an end to the lack of hope which appears to be found in most Aboriginal communities. Employment will lead to a feeling of self-worth, the need to have their children educated, to look after everyone's health better with the assistance of local health services, and to keep out of trouble and prison, because family and community life is seen as so important to community members.